You ready?
Yeah.
Are we going?
We're going.
Okay, I was waiting. I didn't know if you were going to do an intro or anything. Cause
I don't know. I don't really have any sign-ons and sign-offs or anything.
Yeah, it feels awkward to do it. I'd rather just kind of roll in. We'll do an intro with like music or something. That's horseshit, non-copyrighted something. Before we start pitching these out into the deep, because I haven't started advertising or telling everybody yet, but like I'm expecting it to go anywhere. But in the off chance, some freak 1% chance that we somehow blow up and end up becoming shock jocks or radio DJs somewhere in the future, I'm gonna make a career out of it. Then we'll have this all laid out.
Yeah.
But we watched. This is about Picard, and we're gonna try to keep it brief, but we don't usually do brief on podcasts.
I kind of want to start things out. Like, how do you go about judging a TV show?
What do you mean?
What are some of the things that you're looking for that you're like, you see it there and you're like, that's a point in its favor or a point in the negative?
Dude, that's so difficult for me because I'm so picky about this kind of shit.
Yeah.
It takes me forever to get into anything. Like with Game of Thrones, I watched the first episode like 6 times because I was with a girlfriend at the time and we'd always end up boning like halfway through every episode. So I'd be like, yeah, this show is great. And then I'd be like, whatever. And then turn it off. You know what I mean? And I never cared. And then I finally, like a year later, watched the first season. I was like, holy fuck, this is really good. But as far as like quality, it's hard to say because it depends on my genre. Because I like to keep things in a box.
Yeah.
Or I don't. It's okay for it to exceed expectations for whatever it is, but I like when they establish their rules within the show, and they kind of play with their characters within those guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say show, I always think like, is it a show with an end? Because I look at it right away and I judge it. I was like, is this a show that's planned to have an end, or is it one of those ones that are going to stretch?
Yeah, we're going to stretch and just throw into serialize it and just.
And you have like your Seinfeld, which I would consider is the most legendary of the stretch.
Yeah. Which
is the most high quality stretch sitcom or TV show, along with The Simpsons, which is kind of within the same guidelines.
Yeah.
We've set our characters. Once you get our characters, we can do whatever the fuck we want with them. Mm-hmm. Which Rick and Morty started with that.
Yeah.
And they were like, they showed that the rules didn't fucking matter, that was the rule for the show.
Right. Nothing matters. We're just gonna, we have our characters, we have our set characters, and then we're just gonna do every absurd. And
then they break their rules, because that's why I stopped watching Rick and Morty, because they broke their rules that they set for themselves.
Yeah.
It's the same rules for like, let's apply it to like horror movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a pre-established lore with this creature, what you have to set up kind of within the movie on like, say it's like, let's pick one like Pumpkinhead or something like that. You ever seen Pumpkinhead back in the day? So they set a lore early on. It's like a mythical creature that they set a lore for. Mm-hmm. And they had to walk within those guidelines or those rules. Or like Friday the 13th, there's still kind of wheels and on a rail that he kind of has to follow.
Yeah.
To kill these teenagers. You know he wants to kill these teenagers, but you're rooting for him kind of rule.
Mm-hmm.
But TV shows that don't, like the sloppy writing and stuff, will throw me off right away. Or breaking their own set rules. And anime does this all the time, which I have a distaste for a lot of it, because they'll be like, they'll follow the same cadence as other animes, but they fucking do it in such a drag ass like formula. I stopped watching most of them because like there's nothing very unique about them anymore because they're so serialized for like consumption of people over here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like you get your older ones, like your grandfathered in ones, like your Berserks, your Dragon Ball Z's, your JoJo Bizarre Adventure. That was an older one too that came. That was
an old school, yeah.
And those have like unique laws around how the characters behave, and that generational thing in JoJo, like that. I dug how that worked because then you can just like Deus Machina, like the rules as they go, and they fit. The rules kind of fit. Even though it's like, how are they going to get out of this situation? And it's a completely fucking retarded. They're not going to get out. And then the writer will be like, but I didn't tell you about this. Ta-da! Right. And then come in and hit you with it. But going into Picard, I was cautious about it because I was excited because I'd been talking about it with you this whole time.
Yeah.
Because I was excited that they were bringing they agreed to do it, that it was going to exist. You know what I mean? That they actually got this off the ground, because these reboots, like, they always fall off. Mm-hmm. Some of them make it, some of them don't. But with Star Trek, I hold it in a special place as far as television, because somewhere along the lines of Seinfeld and The Simpsons and things like that, it has a start and end point within the episode where it kind of will reset.
Yeah.
And you have smaller things that you can pitch longer down the road for the season or whatever, but it's clean and boxed up writing within your individualized piece. And that's why I don't like most streaming things, because you have to watch this episode before and this episode after.
Right.
And Breaking Bad was hard for me to get through because it plays like that.
It does, yeah.
You have to follow it.
It's a soap opera.
It's a large novelization of a TV show almost.
Yeah.
You are expected to follow this guy from
chapter
point
by
A
chapter
to point B, to where there's 7 seasons, 70 hours down the road.
It's not exactly something you can. It's not like MASH or Simpsons where you can just jump in on any episode any day.
I've grown to distaste for that kind of stuff, where it's
at least in the television format.
In television format, for movies, it's okay, it's acceptable, because you have to chunk your story down, and it's expected.
Yeah.
But when you're setting it up to watch in like a fucking 12-hour binge, you're gonna lose. I lose interest right away. Mm-hmm. Because I start getting bored, because like there's too much going on. But with Star Trek, they never did that, and it was always like Next Generation and the first original series. It's always a clean, self-contained
narratives in each episode.
It's little parables or whatever. They have an intellectual thing or an idea that they're playing with in that episode, and they're going to expand on it. Typically in Star Trek, they like to explore like intellectual content more than anything else in the older TV shows, like ideas about between different species, and it's their rights between existence and not. Like the first season of Star Trek with Kirk and the Gorn. I don't know if you've seen that episode. Mm-hmm. Well, they're gonna fight. They fight on this savage planet because they don't know each other, and instead of killing the Gorn, Kirk's like, I'm not going to do it because he deserves to live just as much as I do. He's like, and I don't care if you blow up my crew. He's like, I'm not going to kill this innocent creature because he's trapped here with me, same as me. And they have this resolution between the two. And then like they come to an understanding. And there's always that chance of more than just blow them up, like in Star Wars, where they're like, just blow them up. It's black and white. But there's shades to those characters, even the bad guys, where there's a humanity even beyond these strange creatures. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about it, is that they expand on those ideas, which I think are bold for television in general.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I can't name off the top of my head anything quite like Star Trek that expands on those all-inclusive, not necessarily like, because I don't want to get pulled into like, I call it woke culture, but let's not call woke culture. But those things in the background are all those personal problems or those petty things that we have are set aside in this future.
Right.
And we're going forward to bring the best of humanity with us and the best part of yourself and be the best person you can be to deal with this situation kind of thing. Does that make sense? Is that too preachy or deep? And Star Trek has always held themselves in that regard within those laws. You get stuff like Deep Space Nine, which is still along those lines, but everybody is counter to, like, there's a lot of spy and intrigue and stuff, so it's an interesting concept, but there's still those rules and laws where that we're going to try to do. Yeah,
we have an ideal, we have a standard that we're trying to maintain.
Yeah, but it's between separate countries, so they have their own cultures are represented, and it's an interesting, almost very stimulating content to watch, because you're like, oh, there's, for me anyway, not for everybody, because not everybody digs it, you know what I mean? But I've always like held it in that regard for writing alone. And I'm not really like, I couldn't even really call myself a Trekkie because I can't name every little thing. And I don't try to, but I love being able to turn the fucking show on and not have to worry about what happened last time. I can watch this episode and be like, this is what we're doing this episode. I'm like, okay, cool. Kind of like MASH, like you're saying, where we haven't, this is what's happening this episode, or we run a bit or a joke.
Yeah.
And this is your bit or your joke for the episode. And I like that. And I think that takes more time for writing than just like slapping a whole series together, because they'll just be like, well, we'll get it in the next episode, and then they shun and push everything until you get to the end, like Game of Thrones, and they're like, well, we fucked everything up. Like, we'll be honest with you, we don't know what we're doing.
We've rushed into this.
And Walking Dead does this too.
Yeah.
Walking Dead is guilty of
that
stretching this to the fucking bitter end.
Yep.
And you read a bunch of stuff on it too, where they really don't give a shit about the people that watch the show. They're just like earning a paycheck at this point.
Pretty much.
And I think that says the most about it, is like if they care. If I watch it and I feel like these people cared when they made it, and the writers took the time to invoke these characters and like make these pieces work, then I care.
Yeah.
But I can see through the bullshit and see if it's just a fucking paycheck scam job. Like season 3 of Rick and Morty, I felt was like a fucking big washout.
Yeah.
Of let's throw all these fucking rules away so we can hand it to these new writers who are like went to school for it. So by the book, this is how we write these new characters, because we don't want to be like anything old. Like none of the old stuff has to be new. And then they started developing like side characters that were proved to be irrelevant from the very beginning.
They were a joke, and you're gonna build a story around that. Like,
yeah, the whole thing was it's a fucking circus, and you're following this degenerate with this kid who's fucking forced to be here, who is like, it's almost like the binding of this child. You know what I mean? The fucking, I don't know how else to put it, but then they abandoned that
because people want a roadmap. They can't handle just the randomness of
I think they
can't
just
handle the...
Most people just want to be spoon-fed.
Yeah.
And they don't want to leave things up to thinking for themselves. Expanding on a deeper thought upon something for a television show is fucking way too much for some people to ask for. And I'm guilty of it too, where it's like my ADHD will kick in and I'll be like, I'll start looking at my phone or something, which is why I like the movie theater still, because I'm isolated from other distractions. Yeah. Because you're super immersed.
You have to go out of your way to experience it.
And I would argue that's probably my biggest interest is if the writers and the people working on it give a fuck, you can tell.
Yeah.
And that's really what I care about, is that somebody cares about making this thing, or for the art of it, or just for the doing of it, or creating it, like they dig it. And there's
you can always tell that sincerity pretty quick.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because as I've been like watching some of the older episodes of The Simpsons, I don't know if you ever watched them on Disney Plus, like
not yet.
First couple of seasons, and it's so good. And I want to watch all of it because I want to see how it progresses, because I don't feel like they necessarily dropped off, but the writers changed.
Yeah.
And so like ideals changed about the show, so you can definitely tell that change of pace from younger generations coming in from like these old guys like Conan O'Brien and like all the guys who were
writing
originally
those
producing
first few seasons,
where they had these fucking fantastic concepts, and they like pitched these great jokes, because it's blazing past in television and comedy writing, where they're doing things that nobody was ever doing before.
Yeah.
And there's sincerity to The Simpsons that was never really portrayed in like the media when we were kids.
No.
It's a dysfunctional family as a unit, but they still like very much care about each other. And there's like these really sweet, well-written moments where the greater part of their humanity will come out, and you can like flesh out these characters. Like Homer it's a deep feeling individual, but he's a raging idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a flailing moron, but he's a good man. And that's his redeeming quality. In earnest, he's a good person.
Right.
You know
he's
what
not
I mean?
the villain. He's never going to be the villain of the show.
And that's the thing that I think was they were careful with how they wrote it. They were like, we care about Homer and this character, and as they guide him through these situations, and all of them, even the side characters, they care about them too. But too much in television now is like, how can we shit this out as quickly as possible? Take our paycheck and go work on our side project, because this is my real passion project, and I want to get this passion project out. I'm pointing fingers at like Family Guy and things like that, which after like bring Bot back the third time, because now it's just in syndication where it'll just go forever.
Yeah.
As long as Fox will let it run. It fell off because it lost its charm after like the first or second season, because they tried to have like a guided narrative between the characters and between the jokes, and now it's just like slap you in the face with.
Remember this.
It's not even jokes. Yeah. It's not even jokes. It's just us. Most of their jokes.
Name dropping a celebrity or name dropping an old show or something.
It's something that the essence of their humor, and South Park tackled this. You know what I mean? South Park did it. They did a whole episode on pulling off the fucking disguise of this fucking horrific writing, because South Park is actually trying to write. They actually try to like form ideas in episodes. And they're valiant in their efforts of attempting to be like still be edgy, and they're still doing fantastic too. Credit where credit is due, but they show you something that you know so quickly that you have enough time to respond, like flip a switch inside your head and go, "I know that, and I'm included in something," and you laugh because you're like, it's not really fucking funny. You're included in something. Yeah. They tricked you into thinking that it was a joke and it was funny. But it's just like showing you a picture of like something you remember as a kid. And it's a lie. It's a joke. Nostalgia is used as a weapon. And I'm super cautious about nostalgia, what I thought was going to be used in Picard, which it's used in so many other things where they can use it against you to like, well, I like this. Star Wars is a good example also where nostalgia was used so heavily as it's built on nostalgia. It's built on the skeleton of this, what you remember, what you remember about this and that, and not the quality of the overall product.
Of the overall product of the characters of the story.
Exactly. I'm nodding like you guys can see me. But they don't. It's clear that they were so probably so stressed out when they were putting Star Wars together that they're just like, fuck, just hopefully it sticks.
It's a lot of money riding on it.
And guns to the back of heads and execution style. If it fucks up and there goes your fucking career.
Right.
And it's a fucking cutthroat industry. And it was shown in that. And the new Star Treks are like that too. Because Abrams like, how can we Family Guy down this pill form of Star Trek?
Well, let's make a list of all the things people know.
The guns, the phasers, the starships, captain in a uniform who's very how would you describe most of the captains? Stoic.
Yeah.
Stoic is a key.
Stoic, charismatic.
Yeah, it just has to be like all the like bottom line textbook, whatever, right? But instead of like developing on those characters and like building on them,
yeah.
Or in the case of Picard, he was very on his rules constantly, which I respected because they played around with him a little bit, and there was humanity to him, and there's like a soft side, but he doesn't ever show that.
Right.
As he's captain, you know what I mean?
He doesn't pal around. He's not one of the boys. He's
he's separate.
He's
on
the
purpose.
guy. He is the captain. He's the one in charge. He's the one who has to be the straight face in every situation. He's not the one throwing down quips.
He's the gambler whenever things get bad, but he has to flip
the coin on that. Yeah,
that's right. And it makes him the one that you can look to and trust.
Right.
Because when everything else is lost, you look to this man here who's like, I'll find a way. No matter what, I will try to find a way.
Every decision is up to him.
Yeah.
The rest of his crew can debate on different approaches to different things, but the final decision is always his.
And it's always been held in held in like almost a I don't want to say like a Christ-like figure because they did that to Luke Skywalker, where Luke Skywalker was somewhere between the Revenge of the I don't want to call it Revenge of the Jedi. It was originally called Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah. Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Somewhere between there and these newer movies, people put him in their mind as he was like Christ on the cross and this perfect supreme being. Because at the end of Jedi, he's steady. He's solid and steady, and he's very like a wizard. You know what I mean? He shows up like Gandalf and he has the answers for his team, and even though he fucking, maybe he doesn't. And to me, he never fucking did. You know what I mean? He's just like, because Yoda tells him, your sister's a Jedi. And he's like, what?
Right.
The whole time. And then like they cast that aside. And when people saw him in the newer movies, which I liked the new, like Shaggy, the dude, the Buddha.
That is honestly like the one thing, just diverting real quick and stuff into talking about Star Wars, is I did like kind of the controversial Luke.
Yeah, I did.
I actually really liked that because I felt like it was something that narratively needed to be addressed.
And it's never been talked about because in these, nobody's ever really spent time with him outside of it. Like you have the books, but beyond the people that care about the books and read the books, because those were thrown out by Disney. That doesn't mean anything to anyone.
Yeah, anymore. They're not real anymore.
But they never gave him like a solid character arc as far as humanity. Like he went from being like a goofy kid to the fucking savior of this rebellion.
Right, we're gonna turn him into Gandalf.
And he's essentially Gandalf the White, who comes to Gandalf the Black, who shows up to fucking save everybody. And then as it all falls apart, you can't make mistakes. There's no human left in him. You know what I mean? So as he bears it all,
still try to just like live a life or something, because he didn't just like go, you know what, this whole monk lifestyle thing sounds really nice. No.
I don't think it was never chosen. He didn't fucking want to fucking rebuild.
He's like, he wanted to be a freaking fighter pilot.
He didn't want to rebuild the Jedi Empire and train fucking snot-nosed kids to be Jedi, and he was fucking left with holding the bag at the end because Yoda's like, I'm gonna die, so here, good luck.
And I'm gonna give you a lot of really bad advice before I die. That you're gonna like completely ignore. I'm
gonna be super vague about what you have to do, and then maybe you can talk to me as a ghost if you're lucky. And your dad's Darth Vader, by the way. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. But Star Trek is, and we can compare the two.
We can.
I don't, because people always do and always have. Because it has the word star in the title. And
it's basic heroic narratives, basic universal things that it helps for us in a story like this to compare both the similarities and the differences between how each franchise approaches it.
Yeah, and I think through trying to be separate from each other, they're forced to be a reflection of each other.
Yeah.
Forevermore, because people have already put them in that group. You know what I mean? There was always like this joke about the Star Trekkies versus the Star Wars people.
Right, and for people outside of that, it was always just interchangeable. You're just like, it's just...
It's the same.
Woo-woo space shit.
Star Wars was far more approachable because Star Trek is for the intellectual, I would argue. You can take out of it as much as you want. I mean, like I was telling you, they have schematics of the ships, and you can see how the ships are outfitted with things that don't even exist. But in this world, they exist, and you can see what they're made out of, how the wiring, diagnostics, and everything go. And you can go as deep as you want. Mm-hmm. But with Star Wars, they kind of have tried to do that, and they don't really give a fuck. They're just like, his armor's made out of PVC, or ceramic, high polymer ceramics.
And it's...
But they die no matter how fucking cool they are, because you shoot a stormtrooper once and he falls over dead. You know what I mean?
And I feel like Star Trek, it lends itself better to more detail, both because it's based off of our future, and so everybody wants to see kind of the logic of, what thing led to thing that led to Star Trek.
Right, and it's pretty well detailed.
And it lends itself to that. You can actually kind of make that up and stuff, whereas the only explanation you need for Star Wars is long ago, galaxy far, far away. Right. Once upon a time.
Which is far safer for somebody who's like just walking into this.
It makes it very approachable.
Which is fine. Which is fine for what it is. But it's not... They're super not the same thing, even though you can box them up in the same different corners of the box, different sides. But I love Star Trek because the care of, and I'm not saying they're perfect because they have stepped on their own toes once or twice, I'm sure, but they're always pretty good about how we can guide through this whole run of the show without crossing over ourselves. Mm-hmm. And if we get too far, we'll do like a time travel episode or something we'll do a DC Infinite Earths or something, you know what I mean, where they have a crisis and they try to fix it.
And try to just reboot everything.
Which is the fatal flaw of Star Wars, because I feel like they would have prospered from risking something like that. Yeah. Like a fucking time
warp. Just a clean slate. Yeah, just something
that will, an alternate universe. You know what I mean? A separated timeline from... Say at the end of Return of the Jedi, things went smooth, but something altered this timeline to cause all these spiraling of events, because then they could walk away from the wreckage and be like, it's not the same.
It's not the same. It was never the same. Stop comparing the two.
Everything's over here. It's safe. It's fine. Don't yell at us. Don't yell at us.
Yeah.
Because then they could have been okay. But they were so fucking chicken shit to do that. But they would have been fine. Well, like, overall.
And the thing is like that's, Star Trek did have that moment. That was Abrams' Star Trek was his Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Let's see how we're jumping back and forth.
We're going to jump right into that. But is that a good enough excuse? It's
never a good excuse for Abrams to fucking come in and shit on something that people love, because nostalgia is it's just a pill that he can hand you to take this and then
another
watch
thing
my
pull out of
movie.
His utility belt. Yeah,
and try to solve this. And he has merits as a director for creating things, but like I said, I think he's like a great villain. He's a soulless hack. He's like the Adam Sandler of the shitty comedy movie world. Sandler can walk away, and he did this recent movie, so I don't want to say that he can't perform well, because he did Uncut Gems and apparently was great, and I still want to check it out. But he did stuff like The Cobbler, which featured like a near rape scene. It's on Netflix, I think, and it's this. He has, when he puts on the shoe for people who haven't seen it, spoilers. When he puts on the shoe of the person of the shoe he's working on, he can look like that person and become that person. So he becomes this like young business guy, puts on his shoes and goes into his fucking apartment, and his like hot model girlfriend is in the shower telling him, "Come on, come on," and he's like wearing nothing but the shoes or getting ready to, and I was like, that's rape. I was like, this is rape. It's like, this isn't funny.
It's
like
very creepy.
We fucking crossed the line here, and he's nobody called him out on it, and I was just like, this is fucking. We're going Twilight Zone fucking creepy here pretty soon. And I'd say we could compare Abrams to a rapist, because he rapes things that people care about. Because he went to Star Trek and then went straight to Star Wars. So
the thing with Abrams is, at the start, he fooled everybody into thinking he was like this, the next great creative mind. He's like, I did Lost. I did Super 8. I did Cloverfield. Aren't I the most bestest, cleverest little boy?
and whether
give me your franchises and stuff. And it turns out it was all a ruse. To start this, this new business model of his, of inserting his production companies into all of these franchises, owning a stake in them, and then basically just running off of the royalties. And everyone got fooled into it. Yeah, people are still getting fooled into
pulling the foundation block on the Jenga tower and running away.
And he just collects his checks, collects his money. And it's and with a model like that, you'd never have to really deliver.
You don't fucking have to when you're him. I agree with that.
Yeah.
There's no.
So people go, he never tries. He never ends anything, or never. It's just like, well, he doesn't have to.
Right.
That's not part of his business model.
He's just a booter.
He's just
a bootloader for the fucking franchise. That's all he is. And so Picard is in this Abrams universe, which we can give a brief summary of. The first Star Trek reboot, the planet Romulus explodes.
Or the star in the Romulus system.
That's right, which features also
supernovas.
Also Vulcan, right? So like the Romulans are, I don't know, the fucking details are so muddled because
it's very vague. It's very vague and very hand wavy. Just believe us, guys. This was crazy.
Because this is the first time they've ever explored that. Picard is the first time they've explored that outside of Abrams just being like, the Romulans are the bad guy in this movie. Don't fucking look at him ever again.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. Here's Commander Spock.
Yeah, it's his freaking ninja smoke screen. Poof, nostalgia.
Yeah.
And he just runs away.
And they wipe out like two of the most important races. Not completely, because you can argue not completely, but they fucking blow up the fucking planets. And then we get into Picard, and has to respond to that event. But they're vague about his age when it's happening, because
they're saying it was I guess Picard takes place 10 years after that supernova. It's like, I guess that interview he does in the first episode is like the 10-year anniversary.
Oh, I need to pay attention to those details again, because
I think so,
is muddled. So that means Pine is still walking around, and they can still do their Star Trek Generations, but instead of having a new, fresh, young Picard for Star Trek Generations, which you've seen that movie where, with Shatner and Captain Picard. Sorry, I almost called him. I call him Jean-Luc all the time, even though I know it's Patrick Stewart, and I'll be like, it's Jean-Luc. He's Professor X. I remember that guy and this other thing. So he exists as he was all along without the fucking timeline being horribly
right. They're
broken.
implying this is post, Next Generation. This is all that stuff is part of his experience. They name drop his crew quite a few times, especially in the first episode.
Right. Riker,
LaForge,
Worf,
Data, and just
Worf is Data is even featured in the first episode. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it. Like this is gonna be a very important.
We're gonna get into the weeds on this. So if you haven't seen it and want to go in fresh,
we're gonna let's segue into it because I didn't have a problem with it being made until I found out it was. We're still going to be
acknowledging Abrams' stuff.
The death of the Romulan Empire, which is they could easily help themselves.
Yeah,
they didn't need the Federation to help them, and they fixed that in the plot where they're like, well, we're trying to bring them into the Federation and the Federation of Planets and blah blah blah. This whole thing, because I don't want to give too much away right away. So Picard goes out there to help evacuate these people from the planet.
Well, he tries to put together a Federation fleet, to start getting them and everything, and he's getting fought the whole way. They're like, logistically that's kind of dumb. What are you doing and stuff? And he's like, we're the freaking Federation of Planets. Like our logistics are insane. We can do this
easily.
Yeah.
But so could the fucking Romulans, is my point.
Right.
And in fact, they would probably be like, we don't fucking need your help. It's our planet. We'll take care of it. They have, if you look at the sector space map for the lore of Star Trek, which exists, they own a fucking huge...
They're like a third of the map.
Huge chunk of that gigantic empire's Romulan Empire. They're fucking perfectly capable.
Very advanced,
They're well equipped. Their ships are... they have galactic... class vessels that are equal or might even possibly be greater than the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
Which is the greatest vessel that the Federation has. Excluding that fucking bullshit one from the J.J. Abrams universe from the Wrath of Khan, where they have this Enterprise D with fucking built for warfare, which is like it's
all freaking stealthed out,
just
and
spitting in my
out.
face, spitting in my face over the whole fucking thing. When I could just do a regular ship and have cloak, it doesn't have to have fucking crazy weapons. A regular ship could come in with cloak and fucking do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That this fucking bullshit ship. I'm getting angry.
Well, we had an entire movie about that.
We had an
entire movie about just a normal ship having cloak and being able to just wreck everybody's shit.
You're damn right. There's episodes in the original series, but the Romulan vessels can cloak also. And the Enterprise runs into a Romulan vessel who's cloaked, I believe. I remember that episode because they get stuck in a standoff where both are damaged due to a small conflict or whatever. And so they're waiting outside cloaked, and they're like, why doesn't the Enterprise attack us? Like, we could blow them up right now. They're like, no, wait. So they have this moment. You know what I mean? But you have to have fucking big pew-pews for the explosions for the movies, for the people. We can't just have like a cool story, like a cool sci-fi story to follow, which is kind of what is happening with Picard now, which is on CBS All Access, which I paid for, and I don't hate. I'll give them a thumbs up because their streaming service overall has like, I mean, if you watch,
they got a surprising catalog, I gotta say.
Almost all the Treks, including the new ones.
Yeah.
Some cool cartoons. I can't remember. Like, there's like weird stuff on there too. What did we say? There was some Nickelodeon stuff on there too.
There was some old
like Danny Phantoms and stuff like that. Like strange offbeat stuff that you're finding on there. Not bad. They could compete, given their selection, and they stream like the new episodes right away.
Yeah.
For like, because my mom likes it because of Survivor, and she can watch her reality shows like right away. So she was like, "Yeah, like I'm getting in on this." But we got in for Picard. And it plays out because like I was mixed feelings when we were watching it because we watched the first 4 episodes, and trailed off by the third or fourth. Even though I kind of followed it, I rewatched some of the third in case there's stuff I missed. I didn't really miss much when we were talking.
No,
it was just a world building, and then getting to the point. I'm saving the fourth one, which is like more.
It's more falling into kind of showing off like what their formula. They're kind of, because the first 3 episodes I'd say are mostly set up.
Yeah, it's playing it safe because it's sentimental moments of reintroducing characters and remember this, remember berries all over the place, remember this, remember that, remember this. But it has like an interesting, not a bad action-packed plot, which is not Star Trek.
Very action.
You can see because publicly we both watch a lot of Red Letter Media, and they had their say about it, and which it kind of put me off but they're hardcore Trekkies, and I wouldn't even classify myself in that because I know it has to be adapted for another age, because the age of Star Trek is over, and the age of all things is coming to an end, of all the things that were previous because of streaming services, which I complained about before. So it has to be spiced up in a way that it's digestible to compete with these other, because if you do a slow burn sci-fi, it'll never get anywhere. People won't watch it. There's no way that you can get people to watch a slow burn Star Trek or something like that.
Well, the thing is, that's kind of how it's always been. There's a massive graveyard of failed sci-fi franchises out there.
Dating back to, let's go back to even the 50s to like Flash Gordon and stuff.
Yeah, like Star Wars and Star Trek, like they are held up on such a pedestal, I would say mostly because they beat the odds.
Which is fucking... It's... And like Rich Evans said, Star Wars is a fluke. And I completely agree with him. Because given like the stuff at the time, it's transcended that now where people don't even remember the time that it came out or the stuff that it was coming out against. You know what I mean? But it's transcended beyond all that, and it becomes its own, almost like Frankenstein's monster, where it continues forward on this destructive path, regardless of its own well-being or not, or future care of what's going to come next. How much money can we get out of it? And I would argue that Star Trek is not, because like the original series, what I felt was special about it was it's just a Western.
Well, it's a serialized TV show that isn't structured like a soap opera. Yeah, like we were talking about before, where just your whole narrative is so dependent upon the previous episode. Because famously, I guess the story is with the original series is that when it came out, it was probably a moderate success.
People weren't really catching on,
but not really catching on. And it wasn't until it hit syndication, probably. It didn't really blow up big until a few years after it ended.
That's right.
And people caught it on syndication and were like, well, holy cow.
Yeah, this
is really good.
And it is good. I agree with that. Like the original series is a ton of fun to watch. Because it's, like I said, it's just a Western, but it's like piece by piece. But it's so far-fetched from what Abrams made it out to be, because they made Kirk out to be this like, I fuck all these green women and fucking blunder through it, which I joke with my friends about that. Like my buddy who he's more of a Trekkie than I am, and that's the joke, is that Kirk will just blow him up first before he talks to him. Let's try to he's not that guy. He's a good captain.
Yeah.
He's a good man. The difference between him and Picard is so stark, because he will pal around with you, and he'll be damn serious.
One of the boys, yeah.
He'll be damn serious when he needs to, but there is a trifecta between his friendship with Spock and McCoy, what shows his true streak, his true humanity, his attitude towards everybody, which is he's the sheriff and the posse, and we're going to go into town and solve, because it's formalized like the Westerns of the day. You know what I mean? But it's I mean, that's basically what you've had recreated. Like Firefly was it basically trying to be that. It was trying to be what Trek was, especially the original. Just more slap in the face with the Western stuff.
Yeah. Because
they have cowboy guns in space, and it's like that doesn't work that way. It's in the same spirit, and like people loved Firefly for the same reason after it was already gone, where they were like, "This is a fucking great show," and the concept is great.
It's solid, yeah.
And I mean, Star Trek is famous for being all inclusive, for having like the first black main actress on television,
mm-hmm.
who is I was reading a story the other day because it was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or it's coming up, right? Or it's already passed.
It's already passed, yeah.
And it's she was gonna quit. Uhura, I can't remember her name, but she was gonna quit her role because of all the extra pressure for being black, because they have an on-screen kiss.
Mm-hmm.
She has a kiss with Kirk, and which fucking melted TV down when people found out about it. But Martin Luther King urged her to stay. He's like, you're a symbol to fucking black people everywhere that like it's fucking things are getting better. You know what I mean? Like if you just keep hanging in there, that we are.
You're the bellwether of this change that we're working towards.
We are. It's a fucking signal that things are working and we're progressing towards that mode where things can be normal and we can put things aside, and like reasoned with her, and she kept doing it. She was gonna fucking walk away and be like, no, I can't do this. So it became special for more reasons than just that. You know what I mean? Like, my God, like the times were so rich, the history of the whole thing. But as far as Picard, we don't have any of that extra stuff to lay on because it's built like, what would you compare it to? I would say it's built like these streaming services things.
Yeah.
With the mask of, remember Picard back in the older days. The reason I'm sticking in, because the underlying plot is this mystery.
Yeah.
Between allegedly Data's daughter. We'll say it's I'll say allegedly because nothing's been revealed. Because most of this is stepping on the toes of the lore of Next Generation, where they tried to clone Data. There was a bunch of episodes about his
making synthetics. Yeah.
His rights as a sentient being, and is he sentient? And
is he sentient or is he a piece of equipment? Yeah.
That's right. And that was a whole great episode. It was just a court drama back and forth on arguing the rights of this individual. They argued for the rights that he is, I believe, and he's not a piece of property for Starfleet to go manufacture.
Yeah.
And Picard is all about, we manufactured a bunch of Datas and fuck all that. So like we just made a bunch of robots because we need robots. It's the future. If you don't have goddamn robots, then what's the point? He's an android. Sorry. But besides like slapping some of those rules in the face, because this is what the studio wanted, it was too Trekky. They didn't want a too Trekky of a rule because like they were going to follow the rules of the show and all the rules laid out before, and so the details were. They're like, we have to muddle some of this because it's going to fucking freak people out, because it will.
Yeah.
If you just like you watching The Witcher, you were talking about this the other day, watching The Witcher, where you're like, I didn't fucking like it. And I had already played most of the games because I'm a big gamer. And The Witcher 3 is like one of my favorite games. The most, I could go on and suck that game's dick like all day long. But, just like care for the lore and like the history and the built all the way around it. And I've been reading the novels to come along with it. So most of it follows like one of the first main novels and some of the side story stuff. But that shit is all scattered all over the place in the books. And it's like smushed together and rammed down your throat for the Netflix show. And all around considered sloppy and like almost distasteful to just like slap somebody in the face with this and here, take it, it's the fucking Witcher, this is what you wanted. So like people coming in from the outside are like, this is trash. This is trash. I don't like it. But everybody that is down with The Witcher was like, this is fucking what I
wanted. Yeah,
because they were fucking pretty faithful to almost everything that's happened so far, but for somebody who's just walking in, it's like, this is stupid. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. This girl is a humpback and now she fucking is hot. What the fuck? Yeah. What's going on? And she's like 500 years old, and they're not talking about that either. The age is all in question because the timeline's not mentioned. We won't
or
talk
even
about
really just like visually expressed very clearly.
It's not represented in any way at all, or shown on how things fit together in this puzzle.
Yeah,
it's very messy, and I'll 100% agree with you. But I liked it for the reasons of capturing parts of this huge amount of lore without fucking it up completely. Because we have cases like Hellboy, that recent Hellboy movie, where that fucking was bad, dude. It was bad. And I was like the fucking white knight for that movie for a little while. I'm like, maybe it'll be good. I was like, everybody shut the fuck up. I was like, we don't know. Okay, yeah. The original Mike Mignola is on set working on this, and it fucking blew up. It was horrible. There's too many decisions made where they did the same thing as The Witcher, but went way over the top.
Yeah.
Where it's so fucking heavily compacted together that you want to throw up because it's like flipping back and forth so quickly that you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Where's Ron Perlman? Like, help me. Save me, Ron Perlman. Because it was just rushed.
Yeah.
And Picard is not rushed. It was planned out.
They are, yeah.
It's clean.
You can tell they have a plan.
And it's cleanly uniformed out. And my buddy, I don't like to name names because I don't want people to just get dragged into the podcast, but my buddy was like, he feels like they're going to kill Picard off at the end of the season because they hint at his heart thing or his Borg technologies, like Loganing him. It's Logan, where he's like degenerating and it's slowly killing him. But I'm like, it's Star Trek. They can fucking invent something and be like, he's fine. Ta-da. You know what I mean? Like that can be your left turn at the end of the first season or something like that. And
what if they make him an AI at the end and they just Cortana him?
Possible. It's possible they could have holograms.
Yeah.
You can speak with him like he spoke with Data, because he was speaking with Data in his dreams, and you can access like memories of Data and have a recreation of him that he can speak with and visit with.
Because we have a hologram character.
Yeah, on the ship.
On the ship.
The AI for the ship, the navigation program, is an Irish version of
the captain.
The guy that secretly can't read. The dude who's reading that book and his place is the same every time you go back.
He's not progressing at all.
You go back and look at the book, it's like he's in the same spot. It's been like days.
We compared it to a middle schooler trying to read Rainbow Six.
Well, fuck yeah, it's about the same line of fucking once you get into the details of ammunition and you're just like, just shoot him with it. I don't fucking care what kind of ammunition he has. Just fucking shoot somebody, please. Which is along the same lines. But the characters are interesting.
Yeah.
Also, which I will give them that. And the plot of this is clean. So I don't hate it. And I was prepared to go either way. I went in with an open mind. And the story is not necessarily along the lines of like a very healthy diet of Star Trek, which is a very fleshed out, like we've already talked about. It's so lush and so much care put into everything, even the background details, and so many people with the same vision working for the same thing. You know what I mean? It has a special feeling. This is narrowed because they're not building on as much, but focused on what they're doing as far as story wise, and not in a bad way, because the actress playing quote unquote Data's daughter is like a Gemini with one twin. One twin lives, one twin dies. Spoiler, guys. Sorry if I'm fucking everything up for you. I was trying to navigate this, but I'm gonna have to spoil.
Yeah, we'll start getting into some plot details now.
But as far as plot details, I was prepared to hate that part and want more of old Trek, because that's inside me. I'm like, this is really what I want. But I could just go watch Star Trek. If I wanted to watch that, I can go watch that.
Yeah.
And so I set those things aside.
Do you think with this, because this is a mystery show.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily like I would say like structured like any other Star Trek show. This is mainly
it's built
a mystery
on
show.
A mystery and intrigue on how can we solve what's going on here.
Now, with that, do you think that they're painting themselves in a corner, or that they do have a defined end game that they're trying to?
I think they have an
reach?
End game. I think to me, it seems that they have a plan, but the thing could be like somebody could come in and whisper, "We need to stretch this more seasons. It's doing really well." Because All Access, CBS will be like, "You're keeping our streaming service alive," and they'll be like the Emperor telling them to make more Mandalorians.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, if like Abrams is gonna call up Kirkman and be just like, "Remember what I said about a mystery box? Keep the mystery box going. Keep it going. That's how people are going to keep watching your show, is to keep. And honestly, like,
which is Lost.
Which is Lost, which is what I'm saying, is like Lost kind of painted themselves in a corner trying to string people along with that.
What a fucking pile of shit.
And I kind of see the danger of that with this series.
There's a danger for that for everything, though.
Yeah.
For everything new in these days, because of this world that we live in now,
mm-hmm.
where it's like, it's not JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where he's going to be like, fuck you, I have this plan secretly. And they can't do that with other stuff.
Like, that would be true, except behind my back I was doing something that you didn't know about.
Yeah, it's secretly a fucking hologram of me, you fuck. Like, it's not really me. Like, Dr. Doom would do that all the time. Where it's it's just a robot. Haha, fuck you. You thought it was me, really, but it's not. Or Inuyasha ran fucking way too long doing that joke, which is why I got off that fucking train after like the third season, because it's like they fucking killed him, but they didn't.
They didn't.
I was like, fuck you. Like, what?
That was my other Horcrux.
You're
like, damn
nice
it.
try. You don't have all the pieces of the jewel, and I'll take that jewel back in season 5, and you won't have it anymore. So we'll fucking start this shit all over again. Fucking Inuyasha. They were doing so good with that show, and it's fucking. Because I saw a meme of it the other day, I was laughing because Lady Gaga was dressed like just like Inuyasha. And I was like,
what?
Yeah, she came out dressed in a jumper that looked just like, with her hair all long, and she looks just like fucking Inuyasha, bro. She had a necklace on, a big black. I don't know if she did it on purpose, but I was like, Inuyasha? I was like, what the fuck are you doing shopping at a Gucci shop or wherever the fuck she was? I was like, cool, okay, right on. And I went back to thinking about what a big fuck you that show was. Like, and my brother loved it. And
my little brothers, they were up at Adult Swim had the morning block.
Right.
So they'd get up at 5 a.m. every morning to catch the next episode of
And I was definitely on that train because I was like, it was different. But then all of a sudden they made that shift when they didn't kill the bad guy and just introduce a new bad guy, which to me would have been like more satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, haha, we don't really have a fucking plan after all. And he reveals he takes his cloak off, and it was really me. Fuck you. Haha. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, we're going to have to break up right now. I was like, this is a big red flag and it went on for like how long without an ending?
Oh, I don't, yeah.
They had to end it with a movie.
No.
Which I haven't seen. I'm not the Inuyasha savant that other people are, because other people are really into it. You know.
Yeah.
I mean? So I'm not shitting on it, but they definitely fucking got a hold of the weebs of America, and we're like, we need to keep fucking.
We got to keep this train rolling.
This show out because they freak out if it ends.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Bleach.
Oh man, fucking! We should make a little grave for Bleach somewhere and go, like, pray to it and do our Hail Marys and be like, I'm sorry for what happened, because after second season, they're like, we can see this going up like One Piece with 37 episodes. There's 37 seasons. Yeah. Fucking do it. And so they put a gun to the
freaking career. Yeah.
And just start fucking drawing.
You just watch panel by panel as his soul
I got a
copy
away. I got a copy of the first season of Bleach for free on the Xbox. They gave it away. I went back and watched it, and I was like, damn, it's a fucking banger.
It's a fucking good show.
It's a banger, dude. I was like, and they had all the things going for it in that first season, and that's the greed of whoever's Funimation or whoever's producing it. It's like, if you don't make this, which is why Dragon Ball Z Super came out.
Yep.
Super came out because the people still want to watch Dragon Ball Z. Not fucking GT, because GT was fucking mad gay from the fucking beginning. I fucking hate if I showed up to another kid's house, like in the neighborhood, and they're like, we're going to play Dragon Ball Z. And he'll be like, I'm going to go fucking Super Saiyan 4 then. I'll be like, fuck you. That
ain't real.
I'll fight you for real right fucking now. I was like, now we're going to fucking.
No more pulling punches.
Yeah,
Here
we're
we
not
go.
doing that shit, because we're not going to do a fucking sweater wearing, titty having fucking Goku with purple hair. How dare you? And he's a child. I have enough things to say about that. Let's go back to Picard.
Yeah, back to Picard.
We'll do a whole anime episode.
But my hope is that because I am interested in this mystery that they're doing.
Do you like it though? Because I asked you, like, would you pay the $5 a month to check it out every week?
Probably, yeah. And if nothing else, like, I feel like like we were saying, like it's got a surprising amount in the rest of the service.
Yeah, there's enough there to check out.
Shows also. That it's just like, wow, yeah, I haven't found these. I haven't seen these played anywhere else. And in a long time.
Yeah, we'll have to bring up a list and like tell people next time. Like, I'll bring up some examples. Right now, I'm so absorbed in like trying to catch up on Picard, and like I said, I reviewed the 3rd episode. I'm gonna watch the 4th episode tonight without any extra distractions because we were talking about the show and what we thought about it. We were building our thoughts for this podcast. And I like it. And I will defend it for the most part. You can take apart the details and take these other things away, but it's good to see Patrick Stewart working. And his character is not, because what changed it for me, because I was mixed while we were watching it. And then like I had that realization that it's like, what if it's just his arc story of him? Because he starts out, he's not acting like Picard. He's acting very feeble.
No, he's very soft.
Accepting the end of his life kind of stage of his life. And then there's a call to action, and he's like, well, I'll try, I guess. Like, I'll try to put things together, see if I can help. And as he goes on, I saw a glimmer of, like in episode 4, I see the glimmer of who he was.
Episode 4, he starts
the captain
through,
himself.
Yeah.
And that's when it blossomed for me, because I was like, he's going to be who we need him to be. He will turn into this person. So I hope that's true, which I don't know if it's true, but that changed my way of thinking about it. Because I was like, he's not acting like Picard for this and that. And I feel like,
well, you were saying he was acting like Professor X in Logan.
I feel like there was a ton of similarities
where he's just
between
this sort of broken shell of what he used to be.
Because he was fantastic in Logan. Logan was great because they were, they actually gave like 110% with their efforts and their acting, and like they told this great Western story. It's still one of my favorites. Not a perfect movie, but Jackman deserves the fucking throne as far as the Wolverine placard, because it was a good Wolverine story.
It's a good New Mexico movie.
Yeah, which never happens. We can talk. Well, we should do a whole episode.
We could do a whole episode on that.
The Maze Runner fuck up.
Maze Runner. Yeah.
I don't want to shoot that down because people will like it, and my little brother's watching those too.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show him because in episode.
Well, my little brother's in one of them.
Oh, which one is he? Is he
the second one? He's
I
in
bet
the
it's the second one.
one.
I was like, I bet it's the second one because they do the tunnels out here, which is in Hemis, north of Albuquerque. And they have that apocalyptic like blockade that they walk up, and it looks great because I was like, the tunnels, it's beautiful. What a beautiful location to film at. I mean, they have a couple of those where they pick these great, because New Mexico's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous place.
There's beautiful places.
It's just run by fucking idiots. But, did I say that? Excuse me.
Yeah, you just got to dodge around the Epstein ranches.
I don't want them to find me. Sometimes they find people and they disappear. I'm kidding. It's run by fucking buffoons. They can't find anybody. But it's a good one. It is a good one. Logan it has a special place in my heart too, because it's the first X-Men movie that I felt like they gave a fuck about. Even the first one, I didn't feel like they really cared. They were just like, let's build it on the blocks of the cartoon and the comics. Yeah. And they didn't know what they were doing with the comic book movie, so they're like, we're not going to twist the characters and play with them a little bit, which sometimes it's good if they do that. I'd like if they try different things. But they were like, we got to play it safe and just do... And Jackman...
Well, they're kind of like, do like a mix of the cartoon and the Matrix.
It was basically a mix of the cartoon more than anything else.
Yeah.
I would give that. And the Matrix kind of was the most popular because they did a lot of slow-mo.
Well, because, the Matrix worked for Blade.
Yeah. And
so they're like, well, let's just kind of do that, because there's a few Blade moments in the first X-Men. Yeah,
and Blade is good as it stands alone. It's we should talk about that because people don't talk. It became such a fucking flaming wreckage because Wesley Snipes is notoriously a giant asshole. And Ryan Reynolds probably cursed the whole thing to die in its sleep as it lays. Bless his heart. I love him still. Back to Picard though, because we branch off so much.
We branch off a lot.
Because we wanted to talk about. I'm going to make you watch Detective Pikachu, at some point too, because I didn't. It was cool until Reynolds showed up. until he like physically showed up. Spoilers: he's the dad at the end. Detective Pikachu's the kid's dad. Fuck you if you haven't seen it. He in Picard, I'm excited to watch the next episode too.
Mm-hmm.
It's even though like I'm half paying attention to it, like I watch most Star Treks. I kind of tune in back and forth and like catch pieces of it as we're going.
It lends itself to a very casual watch. So if anybody's like intimidated, you know, thinking they're just like, oh, is this going to be like a deep lore run and stuff? Like, no, it's a very soft landing to get into it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I would say it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun Star Trek. And I haven't watched Discovery. Like, I'd check that out next because I heard they don't really know what direction they're going with Discovery from what I understand. Because they want to do small stories within the timeline of Star Trek so they can jump out of the Abrams verse is what they're trying to do. But really, they're just like, we only know Abrams. We don't know what's going on. We don't actually want to do research or watch the show. So I want to check it out.
Or have to invest enough to do something like the old shows. Yeah.
I certainly want to check it out. But Picard, it stands as really well on its own because the characters outside of Picard and like the original cast are interesting enough to where like I like his Romulan like house workers. Not really his
Oh yeah.
They help him run the
run the vineyard. Yeah.
They're casted really well.
They are.
And you have the young doctor. I think she's great.
Mm-hmm.
And the young lady is she strikes me as very green because they couldn't have somebody like super seasoned come in and hold that role in at that age. So she strikes me as she's not bad, not in a bad way, but there's that whole gaslighting shit going on in the background, the gaslighting love story, which you fucking know is going nowhere. Allegedly. Dun dun dun. I really left a bad taste in my mouth because it's I know it's clearly going to be foreshadowing for something important later.
Right. Well, it's all goes back into like the intrigue and the mystery is why they keep bringing it up. Though I don't feel like it's anything really worth
that's my point.
Regularly bringing up.
Yeah.
Like we know
that's exactly
what these guys are all about and stuff. It's like we don't need to just like every 10 minutes break to have an interaction between these characters going, hey, we're in secret stuff, doing secret things. Remember that secret thing needs to happen, and if you don't, we all die.
Oh, the sister
so
stuff
remember
is
the
really
secrets. Yeah,
we'll get you.
And
it's me with the love story because I was like, you have to have a fucking somebody that you can see moving pieces, or otherwise you can't. Because you can't leave people stranded like that on the mystery and just hang out with Picard, which I would fucking do.
Oh, totally.
You can't do that to people coming into this fresh. It'll freak everybody out because they'll be like, too much to think about while you're watching the show. It freaks them out. But what bothered me is like, not the love story stuff because it's like, yeah, it's cute. It's whatever. It's well enough written, but I don't like the chemistry the two actors have between each other either. And he's like, he's like gaslighting her.
Mm-hmm.
And they fucking keep shoving that in my face. And it's like, maybe he's not. It's the shtick, right? I get
right.
I
maybe
get the shtick.
they'll.
I get what they're doing.
Yeah, they're setting that up pretty hard. It's just like when the clutch finally, when the next shoe drops, is he like what side is he going to end up on?
Yeah, and that's your essence of the show because that's what the legs we're standing on now.
Yeah,
but it takes away so much from the pace and the cadence of what took 2 episodes to build up. Because some people, I was reading about it, some people are getting on the 3rd episode, like the Trekkies, and they're like, I'm fucking done with this, and they walk away. It's probably partly because of that. It's because it's so separated from like what we would expect from Star Trek is that side stuff right there. But I don't have a distaste for it because I feel like it's interesting enough to motivate that plot forward where I want to see more. And now he's building his fellowship of the fucking ring basically because that new guy's the Romulan. He's a fucking elf.
He's an elf, yeah. And
everybody else has their sword on their hip, but this guy, he's different because he has a sword on his back. Remember Trunks? You guys you remember Trunks from Dragon Ball Z? Do you remember samurais and stuff and ninjas? It's that guy. This guy's a ninja. Right, but he's not really a ninja. He's just a Romulan.
Yeah.
Which leads to like the weirder stuff that we noticed, which they tried to member bury us with a bunch of shit that we know, because I argued that the ship that they're on, that they're flying around on, is like a Matrix ship. It feels like the Matrix, and the crew is dressed specifically for that set.
This is not a, this doesn't look like other Star Trek shows. Yeah. Classic Star Trek shows. Maybe, they're going off of the aesthetics of Discovery. I don't know. I haven't really gotten into that one, but
I'm gonna check it out.
It's a lot of people wearing, it's a lot of dark sets, very, very cold, very, everything just looks cold.
You mean on the ship?
On the ship. The ship itself just looks freaking cold.
That's what drew the fucking memories of the Matrix. But my point being is that they, not just that, but like some of the weapons are heavily borrowed from other things. The props, I don't call them weapons because they're totally not real. But they have, we saw in the trailer for the next episode, 7 of 9 is shooting Halo guns. Yeah. It looks like the Halo assault rifle, the pulsar rifle. Yeah. And then there's one episode where this Romulan guy has the plasma cutter from Dead Space. Yeah. It's, to me, it's clear as fucking day. I was like, that's Dead Space. Like, that's a Dead Space weapon, like from a game. And there's been multiple things like that already where it's clearly borrowed from that. Right, yeah. To me. And you can argue, no, it's not. But I'm like, fuck no. I was like, that's a fucking Halo gun, and that's the fucking plasma cutter from Dead Space. And things like that. So it's like whoever's doing the props or okaying the props is borrowing it from like a bunch of pop culture shit. A lot of stuff.
Not borrowing a lot of Star Trek stuff.
From 10 years ago, and not even like Star Trek era stuff. No. But like most of these things that they're pulling up are 10 years old references as far as the weapons. Yeah. Like the old Halo pulsar rifles and the Dead Space stuff. That game was like 10 years old.
Oh, the Romulans, their disruptor pistols are freaking plasma rifles from, or they look like the plasma pistols almost from Halo.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the Sangheili weapons. Mm-hmm. The whoop 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 whoop. The big alien guys with the fiddly things in their face. They're called Sangheilis. Which we found out way later because they didn't. They called them the elites before, but that's definitely borrowed from a lot of stuff from Halo. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if, because Halo 6 has been so vague, like people are like, maybe it's just because I'm starved to like try out the new Halo and see what we're doing with the next part of the story that I'm like noticing all these things where I'm like, this definitely looks like a Halo-y set, because there's a couple of like parts of the ship where it's just like. It feels like something that's not Star Trek, and it's definitely borrowed from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And it made it interesting to watch because of these things. But they overall, like, I'm not disappointed. We're getting into the part where 7 of 9 showed up at the last part of the last episode. She was a big Voyager character. Mm-hmm. I'm not that familiar with Voyager, and that's what I'm watching after Deep Space Nine. Because a lot of stuff happens with the Borg in Voyager that is playing out here in some of this stuff. The reclaiming of lost souls, basically. Yeah,
the reclaimed Borgs, former Borgs, is a big.
It's a big factor. That's what this whole facility is doing. Yeah, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, it was a cool callback to like this part of this era, which is not. Abrams never bothered to touch on. Like I would have loved him to be like, do something Borgy, even though it's original series. Oh, you want to get to the Borg because everybody's like the Borg is like one of the fucking coolest parts of Star Trek. Is this the ultimate bad guy? It's your fucking Superman killer. You know what I mean? How are we going to defeat this great thing, this entity that
we can't even relate to? Yeah, that we're just
nothing you can't. There's
it's
no
the
logic.
Most alien thing we can conceive of. Yeah,
you're a parasite or just something for it to use to be assimilated into its society, so it can keep growing and getting larger. It's like a basic Windows 95 program that'll just keep chomping away at the universe. But they're getting into that kind of stuff. And I like large pieces of this. Mm-hmm. As far as things I dislike, it's hard for me to. I could easily go for like we're not connected to this and that and the lore, but I've set those things aside, like I said, because I must if we're going to going to even watch it to begin with, because it's the new age Star Trek. So I've already put those aside, and you could argue that we need these things for it to be Star Trek, for the logic and to follow the rules set by the forefathers before them, but. It's a dying thing.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek is dying. And as we sit now, this is the only Star Trek thing going on right now, period.
Yeah.
They have Discovery and Picard. Star Wars is in the same boat where it's used up. And now they don't know what they're going to do with it. And you have The Mandalorian, but it's a lot of weight to put on the shoulders of that show. And poor little baby Yoda to carry the fucking entire franchise. Bless his little heart. He's like my favorite thing ever. The Mandalorian gives me great joy to watch. It's a good show overall.
I would say like the thing that, just to say real quick about The Mandalorian, that was what you were talking about, where you could tell that the people who made it actually cared about it.
Yeah, it's fun. They were having fun. I think people really gave a fuck about the whole production, but the thing is too is like you could tell it has an end. Mm-hmm. There's an end game too, which is important.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that made me like, wow, I care about this thing, because the end is to me the end is the most important thing. The end is the most important. It's a big part of life, and people have this denial of the end overall because of fear of things ending, I guess, or it's a human thing to be afraid of it. But it's like the most. That's what makes things memorable, is how it's ended. Mm-hmm. And The Mandalorian is setting up for something beautiful, I think. Something that might be special. And I feel there's something special there.
Yeah.
Overall. And it's not just the baby Yoda, which fucking is adorable as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, all get out is the cutest goddamn thing I've ever seen. But the story overall, like that bond between them as it grows, mm-hmm. It's well written, and you feel this connection between them, and that's what you're carrying from episode to episode beautifully into these Western situations, which could be a wacky, wild, whatever. And that's your great motivator to bring you back. It brings me back. I think about The Mandalorian every once in a while mm-hmm. lately, and out of other things that I haven't, like TV shows and stuff, it doesn't come to me in a thought. And it's not because of the memes of Baby Yoda and things like that. I think about what's our next adventure? Mm-hmm. Where are we going to go next? What
characters are we going to meet?
What villains will we fight and duel in space? And it's they've mastered that sense of intrigue and adventure beautifully. With just I'm hungry for more. What's mm-hmm. next? And I hope they continue to keep that pace.
Yeah.
They've been allowed to write it at their own pace anyway, which is the beautiful thing about the streaming service, is they can do as long as they want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because people are going to stay to watch the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good content on there overall, and they're just putting their newer movies or getting off the other services and getting put back on, because Toy Story 4 is on there. Yep. It's about time to watch that bad boy again.
Academy Award winning now.
It is. And you know what?
Not that really means anything, but
it doesn't. But easy pick for a win.
Yeah,
because you and me, I asked you to go see it. I took you to go see it with me, mm-hmm. and you were like, I didn't. You told me afterwards. I didn't know you were like, because I was like a Toy Story nut as a kid. I was, I've been kind of anti anything past 2 and 3, or anything past the first one. Honestly, like 2 and 3 did nothing for me. Yeah, well, I thought they were fun, and I'll defend the second one because I loved the fucking. More time with Buzz Lightyear. They developed mm-hmm. more with Buzz Lightyear, and I thought that was fun to explore him accepting his life as a toy, and I liked that kind of stuff. There's a lot of schmaltzy shit in between where they were selling toys, mm-hmm. and I agree with you on your points that you brought up about it. But I liked that they were like, let's expand on Buzz Lightyear because he's really the fucking one who's the most fucked up out of this whole thing. And their relationship in the first movie is like such a beautiful thing, and how they interact with each other and they polarize beautifully as opposites. You know what I mean? It's a great story. The first one. The fourth one, I've contemplated that since after we saw it, because it did deserve the award. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful movie, because somebody fucking really cared about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it was a script for something else that they were like
that's
holding on to, somebody's personal work.
That's what I like about the first Toy Story, is it feels like the script from something else.
Yeah.
That like they had this concept from an old short that they did where they're just like, what if toys were alive kind of thing and stuff. And then like somebody had this other script where it was like, hey, what if there's like an old actor or an actor who is like on an old like serialized TV show.
Right.
And, Westerns are getting overtaken by sci-fi shows, and he's lost in the shuffle and, has to, it's basically like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It is essentially the same movie.
It's Toy Story is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
With severely more tits and ass and graphic violence, and I prefer the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But
it feels like like a real story from something else,
as a beautiful
told
piece
with
a beautiful piece of storytelling
with this
overall.
backdrop. Yeah,
it's
you got this A-list cast. You got
and it's
Tim
not just
Allen
that,
and Tom
it
Hanks
holds up so well on its own.
Like I would watch
outside.
that movie done with Tim Allen and Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's fair.
Of Tom Hanks being this Western actor.
It's built off of their
and Tim Allen coming in, Action Jackson guy.
Their own selves too, because you love them so much. Because Tom Hanks is easily one of the most lovable and cared about actors overall, and Tim Allen has like a great contrast because he was like the big TV guy.
Yeah,
Tool Time is still funny as fuck.
Still,
you ever go back and watch?
Oh yeah,
it's still it'll sit there and fucking laugh at it too. If I catch an episode on, I'll be watching and I'll fucking. I've spit out food before because I'll be eating my lunch and I'll go. I was like, "That's a fucking good joke." Like they got me. It was great comedy writing. So they had these two like titans, icons of the time in the same movie, which got it made.
Yeah,
essentially got it made. But it's their conflict that really made that thing special. But as far as Toy Story 4, not to stray too heavily away from the Picard and the stuff that we were talking about, because I did want to acknowledge Toy Story overall, because I don't think we even mentioned it. But I cared about that Toy Story 4 a lot. I had it was very heartfelt. And I was very touched after the movie ended because it reached thoughts that people never try to ever think about on their own. And this accepting the fact that you are
moving on to the next stage in your life.
Moving on and the next part of your life.
Because it's
live in denial.
They're very much like it's basically a story about sort of empty nester syndrome.
Kind of.
Where it's just like your kids are out there, living their own lives and everything.
You get your own life
like,
back, and who are you?
Who are you now? Yeah.
And that was his whole existence was Andy. How can we help Andy? And then now he has, because spoilers for who hasn't seen it, but it's him. That evolution of that character was special to me because I was like, they justified making that movie because that thought process came out of nowhere for me, where I was like, they'll just leave it as it is, but they really breathed this beautiful like amount of humanity into these characters, that especially Woody, like overall this grand ending that I think he deserved overall, but this evolution of something that you would have never expected them to make something like that. I would have never in 1,000 years thought they would make it like a caring, thoughtful story of the Toy Story characters and give them like a true end, because you had your happy ending, but that's not dealing with the feelings of these characters in this situation. And you made human a fucking toy that people have grown up with, and they're in this stage of their life, and have followed this character. Not necessarily me, you know what I mean? But older people who saw the first one, when they see the new one, they're like, it fucking clicks, and it's a story that every person can understand, and that's why Parasite won the Oscar, is because they have this super relatable, which I haven't seen yet. This is just off of like understanding what the movie is, but it's a very relatable story, and it can reach probably in multiple languages, reach people at that stage in their life with this very human part of life, the end. Not necessarily in like a nihilistic way, but accepting life as it is. You know what I mean? And almost a very interesting way to take things. And I was very touched because I was like, wow, I was just thought it was just going to be another goofy movie, but I was like, because nobody talked about it when it came out.
No,
there was no real.
There was no run up to it. There was no real press
and
about it.
You get into it, and you're expecting like a Monsters University or Monsters Inc., which has some touching moments. You know what I mean? They can build your emotions up, but it's a fun movie. You're just having
a gag
fun.
movie, yeah.
And it was not. It was like a heartfelt drama for the most part. I was like, wow, and the comedy was great because they fucking got me a couple times. Yeah. The bunny and the dog.
Key and Peele's character.
With the killing of the old lady joke, which I was like, I almost fell out of my chair.
If you want a classic, perfect example of comedy comes in threes.
Yeah,
is that whole sequence? You're just like, holy cow!
That breakdown is what got me. Is the third iteration, which was far worse. They just were like, what if we fucking killed her? And they're like, I fucking was bowled over because I was like, and they delivered the jokes so beautifully. And there was other great jokes because Keanu Reeves was great. I loved his
Duke
Kaboom.
Kaboom. His Canadian Evel Knievel.
And he was just like a small character, and people remembered him more than most of the others too. Yeah. And he was just like memorable. The whole thing was memorable. Forky and his story of like accepting that he's not I'm not a piece of trash, but I'm a piece of trash, but I'm her trash. And his evolution of like putting things together, these are complex thoughts.
Yeah.
Especially for young people to grasp, because young people were taking to seeing this movie. And I think it's important for them to follow that thought process of things and putting things together, because I don't have kids, but people take for granted the fact that a kid, how they process these informations,
right?
The navigation of life itself. You know what I mean? And these are like complex things for kids to watch this movie and then watch it 20 years down the road and be like, my God, there was more to this movie than just these bits overall. And it was these beautiful layers that were painted in that movie that they didn't need to be there.
Mm-mm.
The movie didn't need to be.
No.
And it was made because somebody genuinely
had a story they really wanted to tell.
Yeah. A passion for putting it together. So kudos to the fucking easy win, because they cut Toy Story 4 cutthroats in the Oscars. They didn't hardly any competition as far as like anything legitimate. You know what I mean? They had a bunch of silly stuff they competed against. Who knew they were going to make like an art house fucking Toy Story movie to come destroy at the Oscars? Yeah. It was a trip, and we didn't even talk about it at all in our Oscars run up. Because I was like, it's a shoe-in.
It was pretty much a shoe-in. We were talking more about this, how just sort of overall amazingly mainstream all of the Best Picture category was.
Yeah.
Like, there's been jokes in years past where it's just a bunch of, Hollywood jerk-off movies that nobody went and saw, nobody really, but like just about every single one of those was like massive box office success, popular box office draws that a ton of people saw.
Titans. They were Titans this year. Because Parasite came out of nowhere for me. You know what I mean? And it was because it was a foreign release, as we found out later. Still waiting to get a hold of it somehow. I'm gonna have to just pay for it.
We probably just have to rent it. It's on Amazon now, so
it's but everything else was like so accessible to everybody. And I do agree with it. It was an interesting turn of events. And like I didn't watch the Oscars because I was like, I don't really want to. I just want to see like what people were interested in overall for performances throughout the year. Because I thought DiCaprio could have taken it for Best Actor easily again.
Sure.
Because he fucking killed me in Hollywood. But Joaquin Phoenix did deserve it overall, because I think he put the most risk into his performance. But it's not. I don't know. It was just a shit show like it usually is. It don't like it really means anything.
Oh yeah, it was the inmates running the asylum.
Yeah, which is
Oscars.
What it is every year like that. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. Like, and I try not to pay attention to those kinds of things, but there's a lot of films we saw this last year that I was like, I really into overall, and I cared, and I saw some stinkers. Yeah, too. There were many fallen this year that were taken aside. Because didn't fucking the Predator come out last year too?
I think that one was 2018.
I don't remember anymore. I think so. There's stuff like that came out, but I don't know why.
No, I saw the Zombieland 2 and the.
I can't even remember Zombieland 2. Yeah, and people are like, "Oh, did you see Zombieland 2?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they'll be like, "Do you remember this part?" And I'm like, "No, I don't fucking remember." It was the most forgettable thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And I wasn't on my phone. I was watching it, paying pretty good attention to it. And we got out of the movie, and I was like, "That didn't fucking need to exist. Like, that was a waste of my time almost." The Bill Murray part at the end was the best part because they actually got him to come back. Somehow, got him to come back and be the fucking end of the movie. But the rest of it was like it didn't. And it did okay financially. They did what it expected it to do, but I was like, I don't fucking remember anything about it. No. Really don't. And I'll probably never watch it again, honestly. Like, if I catch it on somewhere, but if I have to pick between that and something else, I'll pass by it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like the new Ghostbusters. Like, I'll see it someday and be like...
It's something to throw in a package deal for, for TV or for TV.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're just like, oh, man, I really want, the TV rights for 1917. Well, if you'll also take the TV rights for Zombieland 2, we'll give it to you.
What if they fucking...
Because that's how it works.
Yeah, I know. They'll give you a bunch, like a package deal and stuff. And they have to, so they can dump off the rights to these other movies because people will be like, we want more Zombieland. Because people like that zombie shit still to this day. And I don't hate it. I like zombie stuff. Sure. That's like my favorite horror... apocalypse thing is like the zombie thing. Yeah. Because George Romero's movies were like so key to my childhood. You know what I mean? It was like the zombie thing. I was like, that's the scariest thing ever, bro. Like, when I was a kid, is being devoured by a horde of dead bodies. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was terrifying. Even though they're like almost comedic. The most comedic of all the things.
It's like of all the horror movie scenarios, it's the one. It's like the one that people are like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely survivable.
It's like doable. It's doable. It's survivable because, like, for the most part, like, yeah, your characters are going to survive at the end, or the world's just going to keep going at the end. But like, you take your slasher flick, and you're just like. Yeah, no, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to do that one. I'm not going to do Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not going to do the Nightmare Monster. I can't handle that.
Like Hellraiser, you can't beat fucking the Hellraiser thing.
No, you're not going to beat that.
And that's why it's so horrific. Like, Hellraiser is still one of the scariest. Like 1 and 3 are still like the scariest movies I can think of, old horror movies. Because there's a few that are just like, will last ages. Yeah. For just being truly horrific and understanding the concept of like terror and horror and the first and third because the third one is where they go into the cube, I think, and there's the thing that sticks out the most is that fucking infant baby stitching its mouth shut in fetal form, and it's like there's so many shocking imagery, but they got away with it to get it out in theaters, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like, and I love horror overall, but most of it's just throwaway horseshit for the most part. I did see Cabin in the Woods the other day. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen it.
What did you think about that?
Kind of almost too cute.
Yeah, the ending it just didn't work for me. No. I didn't dislike it, but I was like, failed execution at the end. Yeah. And it's like, to some people that meant everything, because you could have every monster at the end, everything you could think of. But I was like, that's like fucking Goosebumps. Yeah. It came off like the Goosebumps movie or something like Jumanji. Almost.
Very Goosebumps, yeah. Especially, the last Goosebumps movie was basically, the entire movie was the ending of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. Yeah, every monster's like out there fucking everything up. I was like, it better executed in Goosebumps.
I think so.
I feel like it was better executed. Yeah, I'll fucking give it that, because you know what to expect in Goosebumps. Your expectations are different. You know what's happening because it's laid out for you in the trailer.
Yeah.
But they blew their fucking wad way too early in Cabin in the Woods, where they're showing the lab stuff.
Right, yeah.
And the force field thing. And I was like, that fucked everything up for me.
Yeah, you could have, played it as a straight, classic slasher. And you'd be kind of like, this is all pretty derivative. Like, I've seen this stuff somewhere before. And you just have that in the back of your mind the whole time.
Then the uppercut at the end.
And then, at the end, and be just like, okay.
And then they they fall, like, faux ended it too many times. Too many endings.
Yeah.
That burned me out.
Yeah.
Because she's getting killed on the dock. And I'm like, oh, that's like, I liked the ending. It was almost like an Evil Dead-esque. Humorous joking, the world is saved, and it goes on, nobody knows, and we'll just continue on this way. And then they're like, no, we're gonna fucking end it again, but a bigger fucking stupider ending with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck that. I was like, that's just like fucking, you've already done it too many times now. And there's like 3 or 4 of those in that movie. And it just left a bad taste in my mouth overall. I thought it was cute, like you said, a cute concept, but fucking poor execution.
Yeah. Shit
show execution. And it was like such a cool idea to have every monster, because you could have stretched it into like a couple movies where they all get out, and you have to like, you have a monster hunter that's hunting these ridiculous monsters. That would have been fucking cool.
Yeah.
Make a movie like that, but just a waste. Just a waste. You know what I mean? And that was just seemed like producers.
Yeah.
Coming back in and being like, it's too vague of an ending. Fuck that. We got to really hand it to somebody. The world is ending because it was really true. Instead of it being alleged at the end. You know what I mean? That would have been better to leave it like vague and open. They just pussyfooted it out at the end. But a good attempt of making something new that I haven't seen. I like the concept.
While also giving you everything that, you like from stuff you've seen before.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I don't know. And I also felt like the fucking bad guys they used to fucking kill the kids in the beginning were weak. They could have opened with something a little bit better than the hillbilly zombie slashers.
They simply used that for the reaction from the the people in the lab and stuff, being just like, it was like a hillbilly cannibals.
It was a wasted joke. And I was like, then you could have done that and been like, but no, we'll do the fucking werewolf or something a little more exciting, or a fucking giant snake, or the fucking spiders, something really scary. Instead of like wasting the fucking horror elements later on, because they blew that wad, so now that fucking was just a comedy spoof. It was just a
spoof right there.
Instead of having something interesting and cool happen, like how did these fucking giant spiders get into the woods, and how people are getting eaten by giant spiders, and then you fucking find out the mystery. Oh my god, it was this the whole time, or lead into a sequel. And have a werewolf kill them at the end out of nowhere. They're like, oh, we'll launch the werewolf or something. And fucking almost like the Running Man.
Yeah.
Where they spin a wheel and they're like, it's the werewolf. And they fucking do a Running Man thing. Because I fucking love the Running Man. And nobody's ever really done anything quite like that since. They did the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But not the Running Man.
No.
I was like, I want something like that. You could have done that like a horror roulette. Running Man type thing, you know what I mean? And they know what they're in for, but they don't know what they're up against. Right. They have to go run its gambit. It's just a wasted opportunity. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's 100 ideas that could have been thrown at the wall for that, and they fucking blew it. I don't know.
Were you in the carpool when we listened to the Monster Hunter International series?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's by Larry Correia, and it's basically like...
Wait, was that one where they show a bunch of pop culture stuff at the same time? And this guy's like an insurance salesman?
No.
Okay, that's a different one.
No, that was a different one.
Because that gave me a fucking weird dream. I was dead asleep in the car, and I had a dream about selling insurance to Godzilla or something.
But I think that was that's by the same author.
Okay, that would make sense if it's along the same lines.
It's along the same lines, but it's basically like a paramilitary organization, almost like private security contractors, except they go around taking contracts to, exterminate monsters.
Right.
But they end up uncovering like this ancient coven of vampires that's trying to like summon a world-ending demon god.
Right.
And so they end up having to just whip everything out to take them on. It's a lot of firepower. It's a lot of just like 80s action movie stuff going on
fun.
throughout it.
And
yeah,
it sounds like a ton of fun. No, I might have to check it out because That was the weirdest dream I've had in a long time. I was asleep I don't remember what the fuck your book was about. But like I was in a dead sleep and I was like leaning against the window like that. And I was dreaming about selling insurance to Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like I woke up because I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like angry. Why am I thinking of this? Like, where the fuck did that come from? Because I was like fucking dumbfounded. Like, what? It had no bearing on what was going on. Like, it's so fucking confused. And then I'm like listening to the book, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's some fucking crazy book. I was like, that makes sense. Because then I could ignore it in my dream. Because I was like, it's just like presented.
You're like, oh, that's the reason. That's the source of this.
It's fucking presented to me, and I was like, what? I was like, because you ever dive up in your dream and you come up to like something weird will happen in your dream, and you're like, okay, like. Never mind.
Yeah, and you go back in.
And they go back to deeper sleep. But like that one.
But it keeps happening, keeps popping up.
That one I couldn't. That one I was like, what the fuck? Like, and the fucking record skips. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like, I just dreamed that. And I thought what scared me is like, I thought I fabricated it. I was like, I thought I was delusional. Like, to snap. Was going into an episode or something, you know what I mean? Like, am I schizophrenic and I didn't know or something? And I'm like imagining these fucking crazy things. But no, I need to pick up more stuff on my book list. You'll have to show me that guy you were talking about. But as far as Picard, we'll wrap it up here because I need to check what time it is.
So is it a recommend from you?
Yeah, it's a recommend. Well, and we can come back to this too as it goes on because it's not over yet.
I think we're just looking at the first four. I would say criticism from me, kind of distilled criticism from me from the first 4 episodes is the first 3 episodes are like one kind of long, boring movie.
Yeah.
And the 4th episode, it starts to actually feel like a show.
That's what pulled me back in.
Yeah.
Is now we're on the road. So we'll slow burn this and let it fucking play out. I'll do the subscription as it plays out and to see what's going on. I'll give them some money.
Yeah.
I'll give them some money for this and we can let episodes build up and because I don't know how many of the episodes are going to run for a season.
I don't know.
I'm assuming 8 to 10.
8 to 10, yeah, something like that.
A nice little package deal for Stuart to take back and to tuck away. So we'll see. But watch it. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Because I'm having fun with it. But as long as you can get past this first 2 world building episodes, it seems like it's going to be a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be. That's what turned me around on it. So yeah, I'd recommend it. I'll say yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll reconvene as this continues on. But we'll do another podcast later about something else. We'll talk about anime or something.
Probably something.
So we'll talk to you guys next time, or you'll see us next time, or God forbid you'll see us next time. I don't know how you can do that at the same frequency that we usually do this.
Yeah. And we'll end it right here.